Hello, everyone. Welcome back to ALECA Talks, where we meet with leaders for a sustainable future. I'm Serge, and today we're joined by Enver Kanur, Managing Director of Accounting Direct Plus. He's also fractional CFO, strategic growth advisor, and someone who has spent more than 25 years helping businesses grow, scale, and navigate the financial complexity, especially with regards to the UK and investing in the UK. Over that time, Enver has evolved from running a traditional accounting practice into becoming a trusted strategic advisor to SMEs, small businesses, international investors, and business leaders looking to make better decisions. Today, we'll be exploring Enver's entrepreneurial journey. It's always fun to talk to leaders in this industry and see the challenges facing SMEs, how technology is changing, obviously, and also the future of ESG. Environmental social governance is relatively new. We'd like to see how those changes, and also with respect to international investment and the lessons he's learned working across the industry. So welcome to the podcast, Enver.
Thanks, Arch.
Okay, so let's start with we're gonna start with your journey. You've been building Accounting Direct Plus since 2000, I think. What were those early years like? What has been the biggest lesson from growing the business over decades?
I think the biggest journey I've learned last 50 years, 5 decades, is that if you do something with a passion and if you do it with intention of helping and providing support, the rest follows. But if you're doing it just for the monetary values, then usually it's a road to failure, I found.
So you got to keep that passion. You got to be wanting to get up in the morning and do the work.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not every day, but you got to have the passion and you got to feel that you want to do this job and you want to be part of everyone's roadmap, because although we are not doctors, accountants, we are as important sometimes. What I tell my team is that, if someone asks you a question, doesn't matter how small it is, you got to answer it, because he doesn't know the answer. He'll go home and he'll upset everybody else at home because he thinks there's something wrong with something. So try to be, doesn't matter how small the question is, but we don't know, we don't know. So we're not just dealing with people's businesses, we're also dealing with people's livelihoods, we're dealing with people's relationships. So if you look at it that way, then it becomes a lot more than a job. It becomes more like a life.
Agreed. There's the old adage, you never work a day in your life if you love what you do, right?
Correct.
And
absolutely.
That's a good one to stay relevant for as long as we have. I've been at it as well for 30 years, so I feel that way too. I get up in the morning and you're always inspired to solve problems. I guess one of the other questions, at what point did you realize that your clients needed more on the compliance side, ESG or compliance side, versus just accounting support?
I think in the UK, I don't know about the rest, but in the UK, we the accountants are the first caller for everything. So it doesn't matter what it is. If the client is looking to a simple thing, to lease a car, okay, can you refer someone? If they're looking to get a new property, do you know a mortgage broker? Can you refer me to the bank? There's all these new changes coming in, like ESG is one of those. ESG, I don't even know what it is, some of them. But they will come to us and say, all right, can you get some help? Can you get someone to? And my motto has always been, if I don't know, I know someone who does. And that's taken me a long way. Because, and usually people say, oh, don't worry, and this happens as well. We'll look after you. We'll give you. I said, no, that's happened today. As long as my clients are happy, as long as the job is done properly and they're happy and they're they are up to date with everything they have to do, that's fine. I don't really need to be looked after. I just need my clients to be looked after. And that takes you a long way.
Understood. Providing a solution, if someone comes to you with a problem, it's a headache for them. And if you can guide them, provide that solution, it helps. It goes a long way.
Yeah, I think also before COVID, we were doing a lot of networking. So when you walked into a room, you were able to bump into anybody and everybody. So you will take a card and you'll say, well, I might need it one day. And that's how things happen. Somebody come and say to you, "Oh, I need an ESG consultant." You'll go into your cards and you'll just find somebody who does it. Now it will be on a WhatsApp on a WhatsApp. You go into your WhatsApp, you got search, you got underneath ESG consultant, and you send them the number. That's what's happening now as well. That's what's happening now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's unfortunately a lot less people being face to face. That is really a big loss, I think, mm, for everyone. But it is what it is.
Yeah, we've been seeing that as well, like how we have a lot more of these types of conversation, Google Meet or WhatsApp, obviously. And there's a bit of a change there, right, in the industry, that we're being more energy efficient in a way. We're not traveling as much and we're meeting online. So there is some good and some bad.
Yeah.
What
So
what
your ESG credentials coming out there, so
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I'm always thinking of the silver lining. There's got to be something in there. If you look back, what do you believe separates businesses that survive? You mentioned COVID, you mentioned the transition over the years. What do you think separates businesses that survive and successfully scale? Take your business, for example.
yeah, I've always believed in. I've got a saying. I've changed it a little bit, but it's a saying that a lot of people use, and it is quite well common, which is turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. But I also say, so turnover is sanity, profit is vanity. But I always say cash is the reality. Do you have a cash in bank to pay your expenses? Yeah, I mean, you may be making a lot of profit, but anybody can make profit by selling. But are you actually selling to people that you are going to get paid? Are you actually being diligent when you are selling? So cash is the reality. You gotta watch the cash. If you can't pay your employees end of the day, if you can't pay your suppliers, well, you're not really running a business. You are just passing the day and doing nothing because cash, you need to have cash reality. That's as long as you remember that the cash is the reality, nothing you can go wrong.
So that would you say there's a common trait to founders of small businesses that actually survive? That would be one, follow the cash, make sure you have a cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, you,
With
you need to watch the cash. If you're selling to someone and they're not going to pay you, then you're not really selling. You are just giving away the goods. So you need to be diligent. So you shouldn't be. I mean, sometimes the clients come to me and say, "Oh, I've got a new sales manager or sales team assembled." I said, "Okay, let's sit down. What is the motivation for them? What motivation have you given them? Are they going to get paid? Doesn't whatever they do, or are you paying them a basic and then motivation to sell and collect before they get their bonuses or their sales commission?" Again, if you give someone, if a sales team, you say to someone, "Oh, if you reach your £1 million turnover, this is your commission." Oh, you have to have the next line, which is and collect. You need
Yeah.
to collect it. If you're not collecting it, anybody can sell. I can sell anything and everything to anyone. I don't have to collect it. But this is where my accountants became like a CFO and growth of strategy and everything else, because you just follow from there, because I could see the businesses were not doing the right choices, the right management decisions. So gradually, I started getting involved, and I suppose people liked what they were hearing and how it was happening and how I was helping them run their business. And that way, I'm an accountant. I'm a qualified accountant. And this morning, I've done 3 hours of CPD, continuous professional development, just to be able to call
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
accountant. But I don't prepare accounts. I don't do VAT returns. I don't do payroll. There's a team members who do that. My job is to make sure it's done properly, and my job is to help the businesses grow.
So you mentioned keeping the tools sharp, doing CPD, doing more training, always. How much training do you feel like in a year, how many hours or how many days do you think you dedicate to keeping the tools sharp?
So we have to do 40 minimum. I probably do about 60 to 70,
Yeah.
because there's so many. I mean, especially last few years, there's been so many changes in all parts of the accounting sectors. You got the new software coming in. You got the making tax digital coming in. You've got the FRS 102 changes coming in. Companies house have changed the rules. I mean, the list is endless. I feel sorry for the the SMEs because they have to pay. We're doing it, but they have to pay for it, and I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, agreed. I'm in the same boat in the sense that when you deal with young entrepreneurs or business owners, they're wearing so many hats and they're expected to be experts in every one of them because they can't afford to bring in expertise at times. And yet they still got to grow their company. They still got to scale their company and bring that technical expertise or product to market. But at the same time, wear a few more hats, whether it's a CFO hat or an HR hat, quite often, or a legal or a contract expert hat. I feel like their time is probably 50-50. I read a report once that almost 40% of an entrepreneur's time is spent doing paperwork versus building the company.
I think I think
Do you
in
think
the
that,
well, I think in the UK now, because of the last changes, few years, unless you are employing people to do it for you, I think it's gone to probably 70% paperwork and 30%, working on the business.
yeah,
20% is like, I mean, if you try to do your own payroll, I mean, that's a minefield of changes. If you're trying to do
yeah,
your own making tax digital, as I said, the list is endless. If you try to do all that yourself, you don't have any time to do anything else.
yeah, I agree. I agree. That might be just leveraging off that 70% paperwork. Do you think that's why a lot of founders or a lot of owners, small business owners, are struggling at times to understand, to chase every invoice or to keep their cash flow going? Do you think that's part of the issue, is the paperwork?
It may be, but nowadays, with the digital technology, if they use digital technology, it's quite easy to actually do this by digitally. So, if you are using, for example, Zero, I'm not saying, I'm a,
Yeah,
I'm saying use Zero, but if you're using Zero, you send an invoice out, you can actually program the invoice to be sent out after 10 days if it hasn't been paid. So it's quite easy actually nowadays with the digital software to do things lot easier than used to be. I mean, when I first started, oh my God, everything was pen and paper. There was nothing else. Pen and paper. I mean,
yeah,
Darnell will, Darnell probably would laugh at us, but there was a computer as big as a car just to do a payroll, and now my iPhone processor is bigger than that computer they were using. It's just things have changed in the last 20 years, which is mind-boggling. So what I say to nowadays to what our clients and everybody else that listens, just use the technology. AI agents can do so much for you, but obviously you got to sit down and learn it. But you know, it's just yeah. I mean, there's so much you can do it digitally, even the AI now as well. So it's just got to use the technology, and technology will do the lot of things for you now.
agreed. Yeah, no, that takes us to the next segment here that I wanted to talk about was technology, AI, and kind of the modern CFO in a way. The financial profession is again central to every SME to follow the cash. Do you think, how has real-time reporting changed the way founders and leadership teams make decisions? Can you make better decisions? What are your thoughts on that if you have
Yeah,
real-time numbers?
yeah, I mean, before you would do, for example, for a SME that had to do VAT returns while you had a tax return, you would do that, and then end of the year, after 15 months, you'll give them a copy of their accounts and say, "This is what your profit is. This is what your tax is." But now it's like we teach we train our clients to be able to get a report anyway. But end of every 3 months, they get a report saying this is what your situation is. If you haven't looked at it, we encourage them to look at it. But if they don't, so to answer your question, the digital real time now, it's absolutely amazing what you can get done and what reporting you can. And there's a what they call a app stack, so you could use an app stack to actually update your cash flow, update what your tax position is. There's a lot you can do by digitalization and by getting everything on a kind of not something that you do, but actually the system does for you.
Understood.
So you can set it up. So yeah, what used to happen in 15 months now could happen in 3 hours. And
Agreed. Agreed.
so anyone that says I don't have enough information at hand, I say, hold on a minute. That's not possible. If you don't, that means you should change the systems. You should change the way you work. because nowadays you must be able to have, you should know. I mean, we all have apps on our phone, so we should know
Yeah.
our bank balances. Before you were waiting for end of the month, or you had to go to the bank to find out. You should know how much people owe you, who owes you. When someone phones and says, "Can you send me 100 of those?" You say, "Yeah, sure," and then you can look at your app. It's on the phone. Doesn't matter where you are. Well, hold on a minute. You actually owe me for the last invoice. Can you pay that on first before I send this one? So it's the information is there, and people need to use it wisely and use it to their advantage, and it just make life easier for themselves.
That level of transparency between your customers and the suppliers, your supply chain, dealing with procurement. We deal with a lot of procurement hoops that we got to jump through, but there's a lot of transparency in that now because there's no there's in a way the paperwork has gotten more
Yes,
simplified. What about, we're seeing a lot of AI obviously in the industry. That's becoming a major topic. People are worried about their jobs. They think AI is going to overwhelm all service companies. How do you see AI changing the accounting world or financial leadership in the next few years? Do you think there's some big changes coming due to AI?
definitely. I mean, I think in every sector. And before I go to accounting, I'll just tell you a story. Well, it's not a story. Something happened a couple of days ago. We had a power cut. We live behind the gates. So I went out for a walk, came back, put the numbers in. The gates wouldn't open. My wife said, "Well, we have to call the engineer." But let me see. So she goes out. She 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 puts onto the chat GPT. This is the problem. What can I do? ChatGPT says, well, usually, apparently ChatGPT said, usually the engineers use this number. Use this number to access the keypad and reprogram it. That's what she did. Usually
No
that was
way.
yes, that was £160 plus VAT and wait for an engineer to come. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So same with the accountancy. I mean, yes, is there going to be people getting redundant? I don't think so. You know why? Because the bookkeeping side of accountancy has always been boring. Nobody wanted to do it. And a lot of people went into legal or other sectors because they thought it was a boring profession. But with the AI and digitalization, there's no such thing as bookkeeping anymore. Nobody has to sit down and, you know, type things in. Nobody has to go through bank statements like before because you connect your Zero to or your QuickBooks or whatever to your bank app and it just as the choice available, it just drops in it. So the work's got a lot more interesting. So we are a lot more involved in helping people, helping clients to run a business instead of reporting what's happened in the past. It's a big difference. So because of that, we've got a lot more people coming into the profession now. Not enough, because they're thinking AI is going to take their jobs away. Yeah, it has
Yeah.
taken the bookkeeping away. But to be honest, bookkeeping had stopped being done in the UK last 10 years. It went to India, it went to South Africa, it went to Nepal, it went to anywhere that could speak English. We used to do outsourcing in India.
So the outsourcing started 10 years ago, and now
Maybe more,
it's just
maybe more.
it's just evolved, especially with guys like you mentioned, QuickBooks or Zero. These are all great online softwares that can connect to your bank account, automatically send invoices, reminders, and send receipts when it's been paid because they're connected to the bank account. So it's
I mean,
all
the, this is the accounting side, but on the payroll side, I remember when I first started, you know, I had a number of clients which I had to do everything, which included doing the pay slips by hand, looking through tables A, tables B, tables C, and there was tables you had to look and find and do the compilation. And it was doing I don't know, 20, someone had 20 employees doing the pay slips for them on a weekly basis would take me at least a day or two. Now
yeah.
that's 5 minutes now.
Yeah,
If
I
even if
like
that,
it.
so it's just that yes, something there's going to be some people. I don't think people are going to lose their jobs in our profession because we're able to do things better and quicker and easier. So we are now doing a lot more of okay, not just me, but whole my team saying, calling the client saying, well, you got these issues, you need to resolve them, which we couldn't see before.
Sure, sure. So having said that, maybe now the remit, everything always falls on the finance desk, right? It's always on the chartered accountant or your remit expands quite often. And I want to get into maybe the kind of the ESG or business sustainability. It's becoming an increasingly important conversation for businesses of all sizes.
Correct.
Most SMEs still view ESG as something only large companies need to worry about. But what's your perception? You're shaking your head. What's your perception about this?
So, I mean, the last thing that came in not long ago was to do with disposing waste package. So before you would just put them in a bundle, somebody will come and take it away, do whatever they want to do with it. They may have recycled it, they may have sent it to Turkey for recycling, but actually it used to go into some dig that they anyway. Let's not go there. So now you actually need to know where it's going. So there are companies out there who provide consultancy to help you how to get rid of these boxes. And until we had a seminar, not webinar, we had a seminar in the office about a couple of months ago, and we called a specialist, and there was 100 businesses there. Another 125 thought, "Oh my God, this affects me too." They're not big businesses. Their turnover is not much, but they were getting rid of a lot of polythene wrapping, a lot of
Yeah, yeah,
boxes, and they realized, hold on a minute, the numbers he's talking about is not that great. This affects us as well. And this is what's happening now. And obviously, as you know, it's going to go down to smallest traders, smallest business, because everyone is using packaging and it's actually affecting the environment. So we all agree something needs to be done about it. You don't want to go to where was I? I was somewhere and there was I went to, I don't know if you know, there's a place called Little Venice in London. It's quite a
yes.
nice place. And I went there and I took a friend there who was visiting, and there was plastic bags in the canal. There was a lot of all this debris in the canal. Nobody wants to see that. So we all agree something needs to be done about it. So it's all well. So obviously because of the changes and as you said, ESG is coming to the smallest business, has to come. But unfortunately, at the same time, SMEs are facing so many new regulations. It just needs to be step by step. But it's coming because it has to come.
Sure, sure. And do you find that maybe to stay within these supply chains of bigger companies, so obviously companies, they have large ESG teams, they have a chief sustainability officer, they invest a lot
Of course.
in the branding, but also in the initiatives they take at risk of not keeping those contracts or not getting those contracts with large companies if they're not transparent in reporting what they do and sharing their journey on how they're going to change their practices over the next 10 years, because ESG reporting is a vision more than just what you do today,
Correct.
right?
And also, if you want to supply, you could be small, but if you want to supply to a multinational or you supply a bigger company, you have to follow their ESG rules and you have to complete their ESG guidelines. So I've just got a client who's trying to bring some kind of, it's vitamins from Turkey. So they've got all the
Okay.
necessary qualifications, they've got all the necessary whatever they need to do with the EU and the UK rules. But the one of the I think it was Boots who said, "Well, this is our packaging guideline," and we're going,
Ah,
"Wow, what's this?" This is the package guideline because end of the day we need to be able to tell our customers that this could be easily and effectively and scientifically and also you could actually dispose it. So suddenly they said, "Whoa, hold on a minute, we're giving you a price, but we didn't think of this." So all
understood.
this is affecting everyone. So the small businesses are going to get affected as well, definitely,
Do you
because they have
do you
to.
think, yeah, I imagine you mentioned that you had a webinar where a lot of business owners were saying, "Oh, that affects us as well." Do you think SMEs actually have the internal expertise
No,
to manage some of these things right now?
they'll come to us. They'll come to the
There you
accountant.
go. There, there you go.
The usual stop.
Yeah, it'll land on the accountant's desk. So
I
how
think the
realistic is it to grow your business to hire a dedicated ESG specialist or sustainability teams in these SMEs, or are they going to outsource?
they have to outsource.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you try to set up your own team, it's just not possible. I mean, how many teams are you going to set up? There's so
Yeah.
many, all this new. I mean, it's training these SMEs in the paperwork, but they just have to give it out, outsource it, and get it done that way. Otherwise, as I said before, I mean, already 70% of their time is taken from, if they want to do everything, taken by paperwork and
Yeah.
compliance. I mean, I say compliance, I don't mean compliance just with the HMRC. I mean compliance with everything else. Because you got local authority rules and regulations. You got the packaging rules and regulations, ESG. You got, it's just so much stuff. So they have no choice but to outsource it.
Yeah. And it's do you think it'll become routine, or should it be routine? Should it be routine today, same as payroll, tax, and
Yeah,
financial reporting? Do you
I
think?
think it will be. It has to be because, somebody with knowledge can do it in 5, 10, half an hour, or someone without
Yeah.
knowledge. And you're not gonna get this from ChatGPT. You're not.
Agreed. 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 There's certain things, limitations to eye on this one, but in reality, every company is run slightly differently, and it's ESG is a report of how things are today and what your plan is for the next 5, 10 years, because you can't change overnight, but you need to be transparent and providing those numbers.
I think EU is lot further with this than the UK is at the moment.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
but the UK needs to follow because obviously if they want to, I know we had the Brexit, but the EU is still our biggest trading partner.
Yeah. Agreed. 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 You mentioned, the UK bringing products across the line now, from the UK into the EU or even abroad internationally. So you mentioned that alongside your fractional CFO work, you're also involved in connecting international investors who want to capture UK opportunities.
Right.
How did that side of your career develop? Could you give me a real quick, from
Uh,
accounting to an advisory role?
so I was on the board of Turkish British Chamber of Commerce.
Ah, Chamber of
And
Commerce.
I just got involved somehow. And I think because I know how the UK system works. So usually people want to come from, initially used to be just from Turkey, but now because we're on the inward investment list, which all the British embassies have everywhere. So we're on the list of sort of advisors. Anybody wants to come to the UK. So that's how we got involved, and that's how I got involved. It's because I mean I find that, as I said before, I know someone who knows someone. I don't know how to do it. So if somebody wants to come in and they want to start a business, that's easy enough. Setting up companies are a job. If they want to get a shop anywhere, okay, I can introduce them to somebody who can find them a position. If they want a lawyer, I can introduce them to a number of lawyers. So it's that's how it started, and that it's just grown from that really, because I'm able to connect people, and that's what I say. I connect businesses and I connect people. That's what I do.
Cool.
And the
So have you?
latest one is I know someone who's in the building projects management. So I connected him to somebody who wants to come and invest like 100 million quid into the UK, sort of a big projects, big project. So that seems to be. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I introduced them. They've come back and they said, okay, ask the guy who's going to the job, send us a contract, and if we like it, we'll take it. So it's just so I'm just involved with those things, and sometimes it comes to fruition, sometimes it doesn't, but it just keeps me busy and it's interesting, those things.
I imagine. Do you find that the investor conversations, the stakeholder conversations over the last, let's say, 10 years, do they discuss, the ESG aspect or the sustainability aspect of those investments? Is there a component at all with respect
Yes.
to
When there's a big
energy?
project, yeah, when there's a big project, there's always a consultant on the ESG side because yeah, I mean, you get a consultant for the planning, you get a consultant for sort of dealing with the local issues, but there's always an ESG consultant part of the team now, which wasn't there, say, 10 years ago. But now it's mandatory because they have to look at the ESG issues, before they can actually, because all the government departments and all the local authorities, they insist that you actually do an ESG study on any projects you send it to them now, and how you are,
Understood.
how you are actually going to deal with it, how you are going to counter it. So that's as part of, UK. I think is very good with that now because they insist on it, and it's not like a, oh yeah, if you don't do it, doesn't matter. No, if you don't do it, your planning usually doesn't get through to anything you do.
Understood. So there's I think with ESG, people always focus on the E, but it's also the G part, the policies, the governance of the
Yeah, yeah.
investment, and how do you be transparent on getting that credibility to the investment and connecting all the partners, I guess. What would you say, I guess, trust seems to play a major role in international transactions. How important are those relationships, I guess, for you when you're connecting these parties?
I think, again, one thing that came into conversation or comes into conversation a lot now. A lot of people used to deal by shaking hands, but now it's all contracts, and you have to get the lawyers involved, which is sometimes makes things. I mean, in the long run, it's good, but in the short term, it just makes it complex and it takes longer to get anything done because of the. But in the long run, everyone knows where they stand. So I think in the long run, it's good. It's not. I have nothing against the lawyers. I just think that sometimes necessary evil.
Understood. Yeah. We always they're always the butt end of jokes from the engineers to the accountants to the lawyers. But I'd like to, yeah, you kind of led into the next segue, I guess, about leadership and longevity and kind of the legacy of your firm. If we could finish on a bit more of a personal note, I guess you've spoken about how do you maintain a business and you keep that longevity and kind of that type of living that you're living now. How has that mindset influenced the way you lead and build businesses in a way? What are your thoughts on how that's influenced your your
I think
mindset?
I think from the outset, I think one probably my biggest influence has been my dad, who used to run a business, and he was always saying, it's not just you, so also the businesses you do, people you do business with, you also have to think of them as well. You have to think of them, how you are affecting, your actions affect them as well. So you have to be quite conscious of how you run a business and how you run your life, because whatever you do is going to affect someone, and you need to be careful that you don't adverse, you don't affect them adversely. You basically help them whilst you're helping yourself. It's quite
So
important that.
your sphere of influence, make sure you don't burning a bridge, you don't burn bridges and yeah, you treat everyone properly. That makes sense.
you
What
know, a, yeah, a janitor and the CEO is same to me.
yeah,
That's how I see them. They may have a bigger role, but to me, janitor is as important as the CEO. Because if a building is dirty, you don't want to go in there. But if the CEO is not doing their job, the company will go under. So to me they're both same importance. But obviously,
yeah,
they do different roles.
yeah, yeah, if you can get everyone pulling together and delivering. I always remember there was a good interview with the people from the John Hopkins Heart, a big hospital, the John Hopkins Heart Hospital, and they interviewed the janitor, and he's cleaning the floor, and they said, "So what's your role here?" And he said, I'm saving lives, because if he doesn't do his role properly, people can get an infection. So he buys into the fact that he's saving lives and he works there. So I think
But that's
that's
important that you as a leader make sure everyone buys into that
yeah,
vision, that team vision, because
yeah,
it's your role. It is, as a leader, it's your role to make sure everyone pulls in the same way.
yeah, understood. So what do you feel, if you think about the future, what are you building towards with Accounting Direct Plus and your advisory work? What do you think the future holds?
Uh, Probably a lot more advisory, a lot more CFO, a lot more connecting people than doing accounting. See, accounting is, yeah, I've enjoyed it and I still enjoy it. But, I've got a really good team that looks after our clients. So absolutely brilliant.
Cool, cool. And if you were to wish one thing, what do you think your legacy what would you like your legacy to be when they look back?
I think what I enjoy most is when people that have come through and trained through us, and I see them on the LinkedIn saying, "Wow, I become an audit partner or audit manager at PwC, or become a tax partner at PwC, big companies," and then getting a messages and the Christmases and saying, how was your Christmas?" That really, to me, is my legacy. People appreciating and me appreciating them. That at the end, oh yeah, I was a good boss.
Cool, cool. That's nice to hear. And from appreciation, we appreciate you, Enver, and your time
Thank you.
you've
Thank you.
spent with us.
Thank you. Thank you for doing
Thank
this.
you.
Great. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure getting to know you a little better. Well, this is the second time we've met, and we've covered your entrepreneurial journey, the realities facing small business owners, which you know firsthand. Of course, there's technology, AI, ESG, international investment, the lessons you've learned building your team, building your company, and dealing with so many clients. You're very knowledgeable, and sharing that was appreciated. It's been a great conversation, actually, and we really appreciate you sharing your experience and insights with us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you to everyone as well for listening, and we'll see you on the next ALECA Talks. All right. All
Thank you.
right. Well,